It is my great honor to present to you the Nenana City Public Schools graduating class of 2003.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
1, 2, 3, 4, let's go.
It's Heartbeat.
It's a fabulous show.
Alaska.
Hi, Heartbeat Alaska.
It's Heartbeat. Alaska.
Pull up a chair and enjoy the show.
Hear it from Sitka to Barrow. Gather around for Jeannie's show. It's the Aleut, the Indian, and the Eskimo. It's the Aleut, the Indian, and the Eskimo.
Welcome one, welcome all.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Heartbeat Alaska Native News and Native Information. I'm Jeannie Green. Thank you so much for joining us. And today, we bring you another wonderful program traveling to Nenana, Alaska. Nenana, the home of the Nenana Student Living Center, a fabulous school that brings cultures together from all over the state, a school like no other. We'll be back with the Nenana Student Living Center right after this. Heartbeat Alaska is pleased to announce a brand new official hotel. We're brought to you now by Millennium Alaskan Hotel, the official hotel of Heartbeat Alaska. And
Heartbeat Alaska is also brought to you by Frontier Flying Service. Thank you, Frontier, for getting Heartbeat Alaska airborne.
Heartbeat Alaska is brought to you in part by Brown's Electric Lighting Gallery. Thank you, Brown's Electric, for your generous support of Heartbeat Alaska. Heartbeat Alaska is made possible by Kupik Carlisle Transportation, your full-service transportation and logistics company.
welcome back. Nenana has a long history of education dating back to the St. Mark's Episcopal Mission in the early 1900s. This tradition of education continues today as youth from the cities and youth from the villages come together, all striving to be the best they can be. In Alaska's villages, family is a very important word. Brothers, cousins, nieces, and nephews all play together in the same dusty streets and sit together in the same classrooms. The small schools in many of the villages ensure that students receive individual attention. They learn in a safe environment where family is all around them. The bonds of family and the miles of isolation keep students sheltered. For most students, the nurturing environment allows them to thrive. Some students, however, seek more opportunity for specialized classes and a better way to prepare for college. Richard Baumbach taught in rural Alaska for many years.
Well, my vision was to give the kids from the outlying villages a place where they could go. Like I said, I was in that single teacher site. And those kids, the high school kids, weren't able to get everything they needed from those just one or two teachers. And my vision was to give them an opportunity to be involved with bigger classes, more qualified teachers for what they were wanting to learn, and to be able to find something to take back home and yet have a small home-like environment.
Richard wasn't the only one with that vision. A bridge between the strengths of a rural education and the opportunities of a larger school is a dream people share all over Alaska. Along the banks of this muddy river in Alaska's interior, there is a place where that bridge is being built. A century ago, Nenana was an isolated native village at the confluence of the Nenana and the Tanana rivers. As a matter of fact, Nenana is an Athabascan word meaning a good place to camp between two rivers. Today, Nenana is the place between two bridges. Nenana is hemmed in by the Alaska Railroad, the Parks Highway, and the Tanana River. Supplies shipped on the railroad and the highway are loaded onto barges here. These barges link Nenana to villages up and down the Yukon River, making Nenana one of the busiest ports in the state. However, Nenana had a problem.
There was a remodel done in the mid-'80s that this building that you see right here and everything on this side, and it goes all the way to the gymnasium, those were additions done in the mid-'80s.
The school was about 30% or so, 40% larger than it needed to be for the amount of students that were here.
You know, we had like 5 kids in a class, 3 kids in a class. And it wasn't economically viable, really, for the school to keep all the teachers on and stuff. And, you know, yet we have a wonderful facility over here.
As far as looking at the facility and saying, you know, we do have way more room than we have kids for, what can we do to maximize the use of the facility?
For years, the idea of a boarding house floated around the city council.
When the concept was first proposed, probably at least as far as making a major capital investment, started back in the late 80s and early 90s. And the biggest hurdle was, of course, trying to find the right financial model. A lot of people weren't really too keen about, you know, developing a $4.5 million loan through a community bond. And so it took a lot of convincing of the residents that this would be a good investment.
There were some people that didn't want they thought that it was going to be students that had problems. You know, they thought this was just going to be like a boarding school for troublemaking kids, and they really didn't want 100 problem kids dumped on their doorstep.
And our mayor at the time, Bob Knight, and our old superintendent, Terry Bentley, started looking for funding. And they looked all over the place. They tried banks, and they tried this and that. And eventually they ended up going to the U.S. Department of Agriculture and getting a loan to build the facility.
With funding coming together, the city council had to decide whether to gamble this town's money on a vision.
I remember our first meeting when John walked in, and he says, "Boys, we need to pray about this, boys and girls," because he really wanted us to work too. John had the same kind of vision I did, where we could get something for these kids they couldn't get necessarily at home.
So I stood up at the assembly meeting and just spoke my heart, you know, and some of the people that were there seen that, and then once the people began to see the heart of the people that wanted it to be here and began to catch the vision and see where it was going, well then slowly but surely people got on board with it.
The council voted to build the dream on a patch of land on the edge of town. They decided to call it simply the Nenana Student Living Center.
We was a little behind the 8 ball getting it opened up. We didn't have, because of the construction overruns and whatnot, we was late getting it open. But the students came the first year without any furniture. They lived out of their boxes and slept on mattresses on the floor.
They were still putting in carpeting. Everything was so unorganized, like the cafeterias weren't fully put together. We had to walk over to the school to get our meals, and then we had to walk back, and we had our breakfast, lunch, and dinner there for like maybe a month, I think it was.
And every one of those students were just troopers, man. They handled it. They took it in stride, and it took about 6 weeks to get the furniture here, and they just dealt with it, you know. And then, of course, the furniture came, and then it just worked.
Heidi Christiansen is from Old Harbor, a village on Kodiak Island. Heidi was just the kind of student Nenana was afraid of. After her dad passed away, Heidi's life spiraled downward.
When my dad passed away, it was a really sad time for me, because I was in the middle of my 8th grade year, my 2nd semester, and he passed away December, and then within a week or two we moved to Kodiak with my sister. Also, when I was a rebel, I used to drink a lot, and I'd smoke pot and cigarettes. I never did any drugs besides smoking pot. And I don't know, it was kind of hard for me when I smoked pot because it was hard for me to remember things.
Heidi wound up here just as the Living Center opened its doors. Some of the first people she met were John and Donna Grimes.
It has been probably one of the toughest situations we've ever got into, but it's also a rewarding situation. We've seen some teens come in here that just scared to death and really had some issues to deal with. And as a result of not just us, but the Nenana Living Center staff, the community, and the school. I mean, they just went all out, pulled out all the stops, and went out for these teens, and it's working. It's really working.
The Living Center has 2 wings, one for boys and one for girls. Each wing has 2 sets of dorm parents. John and Donna wound up on the girls' side.
There's never a dull moment, that's for sure. It's like, you know, really, really busy. We have, you know, a lot of the girls get sick and you give them medication, and homesickness. They come in here and, you know, just spill their heart out, you know, missing their families. So we just visit with them and try to encourage them to hang on, and, you know, hopefully it'll pass. And just everyday problems, everyday things that they go through.
That first year, they really had their hands full with Heidi. She came here kicking and screaming, sometimes literally. So what made Heidi come around?
Well, the policy mostly, because we had to be in, and I didn't have that much time to do anything, like go out drinking or anything. So, and the dorm parents, John and Donna, really pushed me into being a good kid. So I got into trouble a lot here, and I'd always be really mean to the dorm parents. And then I finally decided one day, this is useless, and I keep on getting myself in more and more trouble, so I might as well just go with the policy. And so I became a better kid, and people listened to me more, and I got more attention, and I don't know, started getting better grades, and I don't know, had a lot more teachers help me, because when I was bad, like, I didn't care about my grades or anything. But then I realized I was in high school and I had to start making good choices and stuff.
The rules in the Living Center are geared first and foremost to ensure safety. The idea is to provide an environment where students can learn and grow to the best of their abilities. Ralph Linquist is the Dean of Students at the Living Center.
What we have found, and we've only been doing this for 2 years, but we have found through a numerous number of things is that we are able to provide an environment that nurtures and supports these kids, and specifically success in academics. We have a disproportionate number of our kids are on honor roll. Our kids, when they come here, overall are typically 2 to 3 years behind grade level, and in about a year they are either just behind or caught up to snuff. And what it is, it's we have grandparent mentors, we have mandatory study hall, we have good nutritious meals, we have a good safe place to sleep, we have dorm parents and staff that genuinely care about these kids, and all that stuff put together contributes to having a successful environment.
It's about 7 a.m. and the halls of the Living Center are silent. But they won't be for long.
You get up in the morning, you have to take a shower, brush your teeth, and all that other stuff, and you get ready, and we're supposedly supposed to be out of here by 7:30, but some people wake up late.
From the Living Center, the kids walk the quarter-mile to school. They eat breakfast there just before class begins. So what happens to a school when suddenly a whole new set of kids come in?
All of the planning and preparation still didn't mean as much as that first day with all those kids, and you know, it's easy to talk about it and what you're going to do when they're not here, but once they walk through the door, you step back and you're kind of, wow, they're here, how's this going to work?
We managed. It's been fun meeting all these new kids and these new high schoolers, getting to know each other, meeting people from all over Alaska.
Megan Horan and Madeline Fredson are from Nenana. Megan was just starting in the 9th grade when the Living Center opened.
9th grade, it was kind of a shock when I came to school the first day and there was a whole bunch of new kids here that I didn't know, and it was kind of amazing how we could fit so many people in one school.
Leon Frank Kriska.
Frankie boy.
Rick Chrisman is the principal at the Nenana Public School. Today, he's rehearsing with the senior class for the graduation ceremony coming up in just a few days.
At that point, we had 40 high school kids, and we were looking at increasing our high school enrollment by more than doubling our high school enrollment, which means that you have, in one day, changed the climate and culture of the school from a small network of local kids that have grown up together and have done everything together and have been kindergarten through high school together, and now you've brought in a group of kids that are not from Nenana, and you've totally changed the dynamics of the school. And for me, the biggest fear was, how are these two groups going to meld together in the school system? And again, my apprehensions were, there are going to be cliques that are going to be started, there's going to be the Living Center kids and the local kids, and there's going to be a clash. And I'm so proud of my staff and the students here at Nenana and the community, because they have embraced these kids and have called them their own.
Looking down the row, it's hard to tell who is from the Living Center and who is not. And that's just the way they want it. This year, the Nenana boys basketball team got to travel to the state finals in Anchorage. Collin Stone coaches the team. We asked him what kind of team he'd have without the additional players from the Living Center.
It's a very small one. Would probably be 1A without the Living Center being there. They learn a lot of different cultures. I mean, you have Athabaskan, you have Yupik, you have Tlingit. We do a real good job there at the Living Center bringing in good kids. We've had a lot of those students who we've had over the past 2 years have some of their friends come back as well. And so we usually have a really good group.
Carlie Alexie is from Mountain Village. Just a few years ago, it would be hard for him to imagine he'd be playing in the state finals. Coming from a smaller village to Nenana can be a struggle for some students.
Yeah, I was excited but nervous at the same time, and yeah, it's a new experience to me. I felt like I didn't know anyone and no one knew me, and I didn't know where to go and what to do, and I was just lost. But as the days came by, I got used to it and knew a bunch of people, and they now know me.
Kelly Berg came to the Living Center from just the opposite situation.
Well, I went to Nenana because in Chugach, since it's such a big school, you kind of get lost in the shuffle, and teachers don't have that much time to help out the students with what they really need help with. At Nenana, it's small, and the teachers really care about the students, and they can help them with their homework and just problems that they're having. So that's why I went.
Though the boys didn't win today, just the experience of traveling here will stick with them for a lifetime.
My name is Sally Wasa from Gustavo. I'd like to say hi to everyone who knows me and who's watching.
Don't go away. Heartbeat Alaska will be right back after this.
Welcome one, welcome all.
It's a fabulous show.
Yeah!
Hi, everybody. Hi, Jeannie. Hi, Jeannie. Hi, ladies.
Heartbeat Alaska.
Real nice to see you folks.
Hi, Heartbeat Alaska.
Pull up a chair and enjoy the show. Tune in each week. You'll be glad you did. Each week, Heartbeat Alaska brings you great stories from all over the state. And we couldn't do it without the generous support of Frontier Flying Service. Frontier gets our camera crews where they need to go. So whenever you see a Frontier plane, give them a wave.
Say hi from Northside.
You might just be on Heartbeat, Alaska.
Frontier Flying Service, covering Alaska for over 50 years.
If you're a tobacco executive,
seeing someone lying here
shouldn't make you uncomfortable.
It's what you do.
You make an addictive product that puts 1,200 of your customers here every day.
Every day.
So you target someone like me.
Someone like me.
Someone like me as a replacement.
To you, seeing this isn't uncomfortable at all.
It says business is good.
But what if you can't find someone like me as a replacement? Now that probably makes you uncomfortable.
The Nenana Living Center attracts students from every corner of the state of Alaska. They learn from each other. They learn from just being at the center. Let's visit a student from Unalakleet, Alaska, who will show us around.
Tonight's dinner is spaghetti. Come on and get it.
And this is the kitchen where we do our job duties.
Alma Blatchford is from Unalakleet. Like all the other students at the center, she takes turns helping prepare meals, doing dishes, and other chores around the center.
We prepare the food right here, and there's all the equipment, and there's the stove, and the plates and everything. We set it out with the trays and bowls, and preparing it isn't hard because we have somebody to instruct us on how to cook, and it's really fun. It's something different. I think it's a way to, because you're gonna have to go on to life and you're gonna have to do it eventually, so yeah. And out here is where we play pool.
After dinner, students can relax in the link stand.
This is the link stand where we lounge around and watch TV and movies.
If their grades are on the low side, then they get tutored in the evening.
We have study hall in here, and it's full, and they take the tables, and people are studying. And back here is the craft room, and elder Uncle Mo is making this kayak, and students are helping him. Checking in and checking out, before you go out, you have to write your name and the date and what time it is, and they're just protective.
Is we pretty much want to know three things. We want to know where our students are, who they're with, and when they're coming back. Those are the general guidelines that we follow, and if the kids are do their part of that equation, we don't have any problems.
John, Donna, and the other dorm parents spend their evenings relaxing with the kids. For the dorm parents, this isn't just a job, it's a way of life.
You know, I tell them every chance I get, you're awesome students, you know. For them to be 14, 15, 16 years old, leave their family, their friends, their comfort zone in their village, and come to a place like this where they don't know anything. They don't know anybody. And they come here with their head held high. They come and they learn what it takes to live in a dorm setting away from family and friends. They're tough. They're tough students, and I tell them that. And then you think about the moms and the dads back home giving up a 14 or 15-year-old daughter or son. Gotta be tough. Gotta be tough.
There is excitement in the air tonight because tomorrow is graduation day.
But the ties that hold each of us to this community are the strongest ties of love and hope, and they cannot be broken.
In this year's graduating class, there are 6 students from the Living Center. The pride on the faces of the staff is for good reason. 5 of the 6 Living Center graduates have already been accepted to 4-year colleges. Yet, the center is still on uncertain ground. Finding the funds to keep the doors open and the lights on is a continuing challenge. The state government in Juneau is looking hard for ways to reduce state spending. It may seem impossible to find funding for the Living Center, Yet, as Ralph Linquist is quick to point out, it would cost the state more money to shut the Living Center down than to keep it open.
What we have done is we've taken our students' home districts, what their state funding would have been at their home district. When we totaled those numbers up, divided them by the number of kids we have here, it was almost $5,000 a student less to educate them at the Nenana Student Living Center, with a whole lot more perks. And the state saves roughly $300,000 a year by having the kids here as opposed to home. Up to date, we have not got any financial support from the state.
The money the city of Nenana spent on the Living Center has yet to be repaid, but watching the little miracles that take place here every day, it is clear the investment has paid off.
It's hard to lose your best friend, especially when it's your son. To go from being the hero to the villain. I've become the snoop, the spy. I pry into his life. He says, I'll never treat my son like this. And I think, if you love him, you will.
Heartbeat Alaska is also brought to you by Frontier Flying Service. Thank you, Frontier, for getting Heartbeat Alaska airborne.
If you visit Barrow in the summertime, it can be hard to sleep with that 24-hour sunshine. So, the King Eider, Barrow's newest hotel, does everything to make your stay quiet, relaxing, and worry-free. Don't worry about a cab. The King Eider is a short walk from the airport. Need to get around town? No problem. The King Eider rents cars. Want a room with a kitchenette? The King Eider's got them. Smoke-free, alcohol-free. It's the hotel so clean, they ask you to take your shoes off when you come in the door. The King Eider Inn, Barrow, Alaska.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us for another Heartbeat Alaska Native News and Information. Join us again next week, where we travel to different villages and different cities across the north, sharing Alaska Native and Native American news with you, the only weekly Native American television program of its kind in America. And I want to thank Bear Ketzler and the Native corporations that sponsored this program. Remember now, Heartbeat Alaska is your source of Native news and information. God bless every single one of you. Join me again next week.
To purchase a copy of this program, ask for Heartbeat number 62703. That's 62703, and send a check or money order for $20 to Jeannie Green Productions, 6216 Old Seward Highway, Anchorage, Alaska 99518, or give us a call 907-563-7440.
Got you on camera.
See ya.